Being a vampire within the world of darkness is a perilous task. What with hunters wanting to burn you to cinders, werewolves waiting to tear you limb from limb, or your own kin scheming your demise behind your back. A lonely existence within this excruciating and cruel world can often be a short one, so what better way to spend your immortality than to join a sect? A sect, for the uninformed, operates very much like a faction within the simplest of terms. Whilst you may belong to a clan whom share familiar vitae, a sect is a collection of vampires who have come together to form a sort of compact. These sects can operate on a simple basis of protecting territory, ensuring safety to its members, or passing some semblance of justice within their domains. Each sect has its own unique goals, rules, and beliefs, which are shared amongst its members. While some of these factions may seem morally good and others obviously malevolent, their nature is not as black and white as you may want to believe. Throughout this video, I will be presenting a brief overview of the sects that you may encounter within the world of darkness, some of which you may know, and others shrouded in mystery. So, if you wish to learn more about the world of darkness, or enjoy gritty tales from dark universes, perhaps leave a like, or even subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. To say that the Camarilla are the most popular of the vampire sects is an understatement. They are hailed as being the best organized, but this description does not give enough kudos to the faction's supreme chokehold over cities in which vampiric presence is noted. Their influence is global, and they operate their conspiracy much like a feudalistic empire, yet this alliance amongst vampires is ironically quite a loose one. If one could vaguely define them, they are a fairly pragmatic sect, as they're not easily tempted by the myths of Cain and don't fully give in to Nodist conspiracies. Whilst the Church of Cain has become more prominent and reluctantly accepted within the Camarilla, many kindred are skeptical of its presence, fearing it as a potential front for the Sabbat. The Camarilla, perhaps how they would want to be defined, are more so the shepherds of humanity, rather than wishing to be their overlords. They understand the importance of humanity not only as a stable source of nutrients, but also as a way to survive within the shadows. Blending into society so far has worked wonders for the Camarilla, but it hasn't always been that way. The sect was originally formed within the 15th century, after the growing threat of the Inquisition and the danger of the Anarch revolt which was sweeping the world, destroying kindred elders in its wake. The Camarilla was formed primarily to ensure the protection of vampire kind through the enforcement of a set of 6 rules known as the traditions. These traditions are the Masquerade, the Domain, the Progeny, the Accounting, the Hospitality, and the Destruction. Whilst these traditions are all equally important and must be adhered to by members of the Camarilla, the Masquerade and any tradition linked to ensuring the vampire world remains hidden are perhaps the most vital. Breaking many of these rules will result in the termination of the accused, which will almost always end with the final death of that kindred. The traditions are maintained by a figure known as the Prince, a general, non-gendered role which oversees the sect's operations on a city level and operates as the elder who grants and denies exceptions to the rules. The prince will often occupy a singular Camarilla domain, often a city or civilization of a certain size. Whilst they are the supreme authority within their domain, they will often delegate power to other positions within their court, with roles such as scourges, sheriffs, seneschals, and keepers of Elysium being just some of the positions of high office within a prince's entourage. On top of the offices occupied within a Camarilla court, the sect also values the presence of clan representation to a certain degree. Primogens are the Camarilla's solution to making sure the vampire clans feel represented within their domain, and are often, in theory, the eldest of their respective blood. On a global level, the Camarilla are organized by the Inner Circle, a vastly anonymous council who pull the strings through the veil of almost complete secrecy. Yet this information is often only required by the very top brass of the sect. Towing the line is an important aspect within the sect, and respect for your elder kindred is highly regarded and heavily enforced. Joining the Camarilla will often mean a life of servitude to your superiors, and the ivory tower is an impeccably hard one to climb. Expect to be always in service to those above you. Just remember what your mother told you. Always listen to your elders. If the Camarilla are the epitome of the status quo, the Anarchs are surely its opposing force. The founding principles of the Anarch movement are based on their rejection of supreme power held by the elders of Cainite society, and the draconian supremacy of the Camarilla. In the rigid gerontocracy of kindred society, the Anarchs, on paper, look out for the little guy. The neonates, fledglings, and otherwise scrappy vampires who have effectively been looked down upon by those who have simply been around for longer. Whilst anarchy is a common theme within vampiric history, what with the aforementioned Anarch revolt, the Anarch movement which truly gave birth to this sect is a more modern one. It has only been since the 1940s that the movement truly took off, with the Anarch Free State being formed in California. Whilst many princes ceded their territory, Anarch barons soon took their place. However, a baron within the Anarch movement are not as universally respected as a prince may typically be within the Camarilla. A baron will often take the role of a local leader or peacekeeper, will often hold much smaller domains. Barons with city-level territories are often suspected of being in bed with the Camarilla. The Anarch movement prides itself on being a meritocracy, even if that may not always work out how they idealistically envision it. Whilst the Camarilla court may be composed of the most powerful elders within the area, a baron's entourage will often be a collective of their associated peers, yet they still hold titles of some degree. Emissaries, sweepers, and chameleons all serve a purpose in maintaining some semblance of order within an Anarch domain, but mostly act as a preventative security detail, mainly keeping an eye on internal and external affairs and making sure that no threats are lurking in their immediate vicinity. Any and all kindred are welcome within the Anarch movement, but they mostly have a larger intake of vampires from low clans, i.e. those that find themselves often at the heel of the Camarilla. Mainstays of the sect include the clans of the Bruja, Gangrel, and the Cainites, as the Anarchs do not discriminate against those from vampiric bloodlines who are often considered taboo, such as the Cainites or even the Thinbloods. Whilst the Anarch movement may seem like the more moral, virtuous option for your existence under the night skies, the life of an Anarch is far from quaint. The Camarilla, within recent nights, after officially removing the Anarchs from their association, don't take kindly to the sect, and perhaps that is a bit of an understatement. Your life is one put into the hands of vampires that may have earned their position, but perhaps aren't fully equipped to lead a movement to rival the powers that be. Every night is one step away from a rival sect declaring you easy pickings and wiping you off the face of the earth, or perhaps even worse, converting you into their latest wave of cannon fodder. Yet, perhaps licking the boots of your elders for an eternity is a fate worse than the tumultuous fight for survival you'll have as an Anarch. The Sabbat on paper is a very simple sect. They are the foil to the Camarilla. Where the Camarilla wants to uphold the Masquerade, the Sabbat wishes to tear it down. Where the Camarilla seek to manipulate society, the Sabbat want to rule it. Where the Camarilla are the shepherds, the Sabbat are surely the wolves. They are the religious fanatics and conspiracy theorists who believe that at any moment the great vampires of old will rise up and devour the rest of Cainite society. However, like any faction, the Sabbat is an extremely complex amalgamation of differing beliefs and practices, stemming from Bible-adjacent nodism to kindred folklore. For the sake of brevity, the history of the Sabbat is extensive, yet they were officially born out of the first Anarch revolt. Yet instead of having disdain for their elders like the Anarchs do in present nights, the Sabbat despised them with religious vitriol. Two of the associated clans of the Sabbat, the La Sombra and the Zamishi, destroyed their original founding kindred, their antediluvians. They are hyper-vigilant of the blood bonds which tie younger vampires to their progenitors, and as such, seek a severance of these crimson chains. The sect cling to nodist mythology and doctrine as a moth does to a flame. It is their guiding light and perhaps their ultimate undoing. Taking the name the Sword of Cain, the Sabbat believe in an apocalyptic event called Gehenna, a coming time when the founding vampire clan members, the wicked antediluvians, will rise up and consume all of kindred society. They wage what is known as the Gehenna War, the ultimate endeavor to uncover all of the prophesied ancient vampires and to destroy them, and all those that wish to hide or aid their uprising. Whilst it appears to be a noble pursuit, the dogmatic efforts of the Sabbat are often blinded by extreme religious beliefs. The Camarilla, who seek to prevent any Masquerade violations, have attempted to safeguard the burial sites and potential locations of the sought-after ancient kindred, but this has only resulted in brutal conflict with the Sabbat, which now spans globally as a vampiric war. These Cainites as their religious nature would infer, are organised much like a clergy. They are maintained and ordered by bishops, archbishops, cardinals, and a singular regent, who oversee the sect's influence and expansion, with groups known as pacts being formed to carry out their superiors' bidding in the name of Cain. As they do not adhere to any of the traditions, they sire kindred as they please, often performing mass embraces in times of war, practicing the brutal siring method known as shovelheading, i.e. burying a fledgling vampire after embrace and making them claw out of the dirt in a vitae-induced rage, stripping them of their humanity. In recent nights, it is said that many Sabbat have experienced a supernatural phenomenon known as the Beckoning. Many have abandoned their strongholds, such as their headquarters in Mexico City, and have flocked to the Middle East, where supposedly the most ancient of vampires reside. To be within the Sabbat is to embrace the vampire within, and to reject humanity. For the human body is merely a prison for you to escape. One thing is true, however, the Sabbat are a fearsome faction, and for those that come into conflict with their ultimate goal, will be met with so-called righteous judgment. The Black Hand, to put it bluntly, are Sabbat muscle. Whilst they are heavily associated with their parent faction, they have somewhat unique origins. They are called upon in times of need by the Sabbat, and are famed for their physical and deadly prowess. As such, they were supposedly formed by members of the Assamite clan, the Banu Hakim, and were also allegedly members of a distant organisation known as the Lost Tribe. These members were said to have drunk from an ancient relic known as the Weeping Stone, supposedly the petrified corpse of Cain's wife, Zillah. Drinking from this stone apparently gave them visions of the antediluvians, destroying the second generation of vampires, and thus gave them greater clarity to stand by Cain's side when the War of Gehenna came. The Black Hand in modern nights rarely operate in packs of their own, and are more than likely inserted singularly in regular Sabbat groups. They are a small organisation of only a few hundred members, but their name alone strikes fear into the hearts of those that oppose the Sword of Cain. 4 kindred operate as the sect's leaders, known as the Seraphim, and mostly serve the Sabbat regent and their decisions. Whilst you may never encounter a member of the Black Hand, think yourself lucky. If you did, you probably wouldn't be around to tell the tale. Whether the Inconnu exist or not is up to speculation. Out of all the shadowy factions within the world of darkness, they are one of the most elusive. Not much is known about the sect. They could be a small organisation of millennia-old kindred who pull the strings of all the sects combined, or they could be ancient Methuselahs who have pursued the path of Golconda to reach enlightenment. Their name alone is mysterious, and perhaps comes across as just another piece of vampiric folklore. Some say that they reside in a mythical castle, which is entirely hidden from the physical world through the process of a demonic ritual. Supposedly, they are led by a shadowy council of 12 kindred, and only interact with the world through intermediaries. It is indeed entertaining for many vampires to theorize about a greater sect, bigger than the rest, who control the entirety of society from behind the scenes. It is, after all, what many sects strive to do. Their key characteristic is that they are completely withdrawn from vampiric society altogether. The eternal struggle of which vampires experience, such as being manipulated by their elders or being utilized like pawns in a great game of chess, is not an experience that members of the Inconnu come into conflict with at all. They are said to be old, detached, and most of all, quite close to Cain. To even be considered for membership into the Inconnu, it's said that your vampiric age is venerated most, alongside your ability. Supposedly, they are the many eyes of the vampire world, utilizing monitors to report and keep watch over the squabbling childer who rend each other limb from limb every night. Of all the sects, they could be the most powerful, if they even existed at all. Thank you for watching. This video took an insane amount of time to write, so if I missed anything, please let me know. This was an overview, so if you want me to do a deep dive on any of the sects mentioned, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, perhaps offer a like, or even subscribe. It's been amazing seeing the recent support for this channel, and I would like to thank you all for the kind words. And so, until next time, stay safe, and don't wander naively into the night.